Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. I'm so glad you're here. Well, it's Friday. Made it to the end of the week. What do we got going on? Well, we're having a down day. Dow's down about 400. Nasdaq's down 100. But overall, I think the market's holding up really well. Look, we're in the midst of a financial crisis this week, right? All the banks are failing the bailouts, but yet the stock market is up for the week. I think that's pretty impressive, to tell you the truth. Well, what do we got? Well, I think we can get a little rally farther. I actually do. I think we're going to get to 4,000 on the S&P, 4,000. But this market is going to head lower. The reason we're holding up well is because we're injecting trillions of dollars. Multi-trillions. We're going to bail out, and that's just to bail out the U.S. banking system. Look at the Fed's balance sheet just this week. Just last week, they injected $300 billion. $300 billion. We're going to reach multi-trillion, at least 2 trillion, maybe a lot more. Now, the Fed, they started something called FedNow. Okay, what is FedNow? Well, it's a payment system for banks so that if one fails, the other banks can bail them out. Like, for example, First Republic right now, I think they're getting a $30 billion injection. And where's that money coming from? It's coming from the other banks. But this new program called FedNow is getting ready to roll out at the end of April. Okay, so it's going to fix everything, right? Not my take on the market. My take on the market is the stock market will go lower. 3,400 on the S&P is the target I'm shooting for. Now, that was the October low. I think we'll come down, test it, take it out. But we will probably get a little bounce here. You inject this kind of money into the system, it's very inflationary, but the system will go up. The stock market will bounce a little bit. We'll see how that all plays out. Let's get over to the real estate side of things. Real estate, it always cracks me up. I love these articles. I don't know who they're even written by, journalists or something. I don't know. But you know what? The buyers, they're rushing in to lock in these low rates. The buyers, they're rushing back in. And if you hurry, you can get a 6.6% mortgage rate. And now they'll tell you this is a significant savings over last week. Last week they were up around 7. This week they're at 6.6. Very significant savings. Everybody's rushing in. I mean, this may be the last chance to buy a house that's priced twice as high as your next door neighbor's house sold for. It may be your last chance to get in at these high prices before we come crashing down. We'll see. Now, look it. I get it. My take on the housing market is, once again, 50% off. I think that's going to be realistic. We're already down about 10, 12%, and I think we still have another 30, 40% to go. Now, it's just an opinion. You're going to have your opinion. Not everybody agrees with my opinion, and I understand that. A lot of people think that the housing market is still in a strong bull market, that we're going to be headed higher. In your area, that's probably true. That's probably true in your area. Great place to live. But in my area, we're coming down. We're coming down pretty hard. But you see, some people look at it a lot different than me. Now, I look at the housing market. Well, I look at that there's a lot of problems out there, right? There's a lot of problems. We've got these layoffs, and these layoffs are going to be in the millions. Couple 100,000 a month are getting laid off right now, right? Now, I think that's going to be a problem for housing. A lot of people don't see it that way, but I think these bank runs, these bank failures, 3 failures in a week, I think that's going to be problematic for real estate. A lot of people don't see the problem there. Now, bankruptcies and foreclosures starting to spike up. Once again, I see that as problematic for the house prices. Now, once again, it may not be your opinion. Now, there's 15,000 cars being repossessed every day. Now, there's a reason for that, I think. People don't have any money. Now, I see that as a problem for the housing market, but a lot of people don't see it that way, and that's okay. But can I tell you why I really think that this is going to come crashing down? Not just the housing market, stock market is going to, it's going to be everything. Now, back in the great financial crisis, stocks held up okay, right? Well, not really. They came down, but I think everything's going to come down. That's just my take right now. Now, here's why. Can I tell you why? Okay, so the Fed's out there, they're waving that white flag. They're waving the white flag. They're surrendering to inflation. They're surrendering. I surrender. I'm going to print $2 trillion more dollars. And that's not going to be enough. So we're probably going to go $4 trillion, $6 trillion. We're just going to keep printing the money because that's just for the banking system. Look at the pension funds. Pension funds, you better print another $2 trillion, another $4 trillion. Look at the Fed's losing control. The only tool they have is to print this money. Now let's think about this. This is just common sense. I'm no genius. I don't have any more knowledge than you. I'm just, this is common sense I want to look at. All right, so how much do we bring in taxes in a year? Well, last year we brought in, let's call it about $4 trillion we're bringing in a year. All right, these are rough numbers. $4 trillion comes in the form of taxes, right? All right, now we got a recession coming. I think that number's going to come down. I think it could be reduced by a whole trillion once the recession hits. I think we're only going to bring in about $3 trillion, and that's what we'll bring in the form of taxes. Okay, so now out of this taxes, what's going to happen? Well, we got to pay our debt. What's our debt? Well, it's over 30 trillion, about 32 trillion, right? All right, so here's the thing. Now, you see, this is what really frustrates me. It really frustrates me. Okay, well, what we've done with our debt is, unlike the person buying a house now who locked in 30 years at 3%, okay? And that's the smart thing to do, right? They locked in that 3% rate and now rates are at 7. Well, how did our government do? Well, they moved everything to the short term so that it has to be refinanced every 2 years now. Everything on the short end is what they were buying. They were selling the long end. You see, they could have financed our debt for 30 years at 0%, and that would have been good. But no, they did, what was beneficial to them, it's financed at 2 years, right? Okay, so every 2 years it rolls over. Now, let's say that interest rates get to 6%. 6% on 32 trillion. I'm just using rough numbers, but it's going to be about $2 trillion just to make the interest payment on our debt. About $2 trillion. Okay. All right. Well, can we afford that? Well, we're going to be bringing in about $3 trillion. So it's going to take about half of that, right? About half of that. Half of it, if we take in $4 trillion, if we take in $3 trillion, it's going to be more than half going just to pay the debt. Now, this is just common sense, right? All right. So how much do we pay on Medicare? Medicare, we pay what? Let's see. It's about about a trillion. Social Security, how much we pay on that? About 1.2 trillion. So we got 2 trillion for the debt, another trillion for Medicare, and a 1.2 trillion. We're over 4 trillion right there. Now that doesn't take into account what we pay on the military, which is approaching $1 trillion, and that leaves absolutely nothing for any other program. So what would we have to do? Well, common sense tells you the only thing we know how to do is to print more money. We don't have any money, right? We're flat broke our government's broke, okay? But they're going to have to bail out these banks now. $2 trillion just for the banks. And that's not enough. It's worse than that. It's going to be more than that. But then you got the pension funds. Throw in another $2 trillion. Where is the money coming from? Look, they're going to inflate. That's the only way they can do it. And they don't want inflation to come down. They have too much debt. They want to inflate the debt away. This is not going to end well. It's not going to be well for houses. Not going to be well for the stock market. There is no country in the history of the world that has ever printed its way to prosperity. You can't do it. You just cannot do it. our lifestyle in the U.S. is going to be going down. And it's going to be going down relatively fast. And it's going to bring the system down with it. Now, we are in the midst of the 2023 financial crisis right now. Now, a lot of people don't even know there's a crisis going on. Look, the banking system is about to buckle. They're going to have to pump in. They've already pumped in $300 billion minimum. I mean, it's probably a lot more by now. It's probably double that already. Now, of course, this is not a bailout. It's called emergency loans. Emergency loans. Okay. And I'm fine with that term, emergency loans. We're going to have over $2 trillion of these emergency loans out there. But where do they get the money from? Well, they steal it. They steal it from me and you. They don't have the money to make these loans. So what do? Well, they have to print the money, right? What happens when they print the money? Well, it makes all of our money worthless. And now they got this Fed Now program that they're bringing out. Now, the Fed Now program is mainly just between banks. But here's the thing. Here's what they're going to end up doing. You see, the FDIC insures to 250, right? But now they're saying that we insured everything. Now, Silicon Valley Bank, they're very lucky. They're lucky. I mean, if you were a depositor, you're lucky. You're lucky because your bank was one of the first to fail. The first banks are going to get all that FDIC bailout money. FDIC doesn't have the money. They have 1 cent of every dollar on deposit. 1 cent. 1 cent. So they don't have the money. So the Fed, once again, is going to have to print all the money, but the FDIC is going to use their money on the first ones that fail. And that was Silicon Valley Bank. Make the depositors 100% full. But you see, it's 100% over the $250,000. So all of us that have our money in the bank, we're now in jeopardy because the FDIC, their money just got wiped out on this first bank failure. Okay, so what happens now? Well, they're going to print the money and they're going to wave that white flag to inflation. Inflation was at 9, came down to 6. Mark my words, this second wave, it's going to be nasty. It's going to be 10, 15%, maybe even 20%. I don't mean to scare anybody, but if you go to hyperinflation, you don't get that inflation genie in the bottle. No, your currency falls apart, right? And they have a plan. Don't worry, the Fed has tools. It's called the central bank digital currency. They're going to bring us to the central bank digital currency. So they're stealing trillions of dollars from the taxpayer for all these bailouts, and then they're going to put us into the central bank digital currency. Now, I would think there'd be revolts in the street. I would, but it's not going to happen. People don't care. They want the bailouts. They want to go socialism. They want the stimulus checks coming. They want to be dependent upon the government. To me, I just don't get that. I really don't, but that's what they're being taught in schools right now, to depend on the government. They don't want entrepreneurs out there teaching, making money, creating jobs. No, we don't want that anymore. We just want to get the handout. We don't want to work anymore. It's really, I don't know. I got carried away here. It's Friday. We're in the midst of a financial crisis. That's the only way I see it. And I see that this financial crisis is going to bring down the housing market with it. There's just no other way. These houses, they're going to readjust. They're going to reset. Now, that's the bad news. I mean, it's going to be painful for a lot of people. I get that. A lot of people are going to go underwater like in 2008. But it's going to make homes affordable for a lot of other people. It's a house of cards. A house of cards is going to fall with this financial crisis. And other people will be able to afford homes. It will revert back to the mean. We're very far above the mean right now. It always reverts back. Okay, so once you get down about 40, 50%, that's where the opportunities come. That's where you should be looking at houses, thinking about getting in. But you're going to have time. It's not going to bounce right back. Oh, they're going to try. They're going to keep printing that money. They are. They're not going to stop. That's the only tool they have. They want to stay in power. The dollar's going away. The central bank digital currency will be coming in. But hopefully we get a little bit of a revolt over this because it is revolting. Believe me. Anyways, I'm Tall Mike. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, give me the thumbs up. It's Friday. We got the whole weekend ahead to, see what's going to happen on Monday. Hit the subscribe button. I want to talk to you. Bye-bye now.